Your four favorites are A Silent Voice, Good Will Hunting, Nobody Knows, and Incendies, which leads me to believe that you enjoy Crying and Math. Three of these can be considered coming-of-age films, and three of them have characters who were either orphaned, abandoned, or abused as children. There are some other sensitive topics in these movies that influenced my recommendations, but I feel like I shouldn't specify the connections between your favorites in some of my picks because I want to avoid spoilers, and certain words might get this video flagged. My top choice for you is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Not only does it explore a lot of those themes that I just alluded to, it's also a coming-of-age film, and like Good Will Hunting, it involves psychiatry and there's a teacher-student bond. All About Lily Shushu is another one of my top choices for you. Like A Silent Voice, it's a Japanese coming-of-age film that deals with bullying. Speaking of Japanese coming-of-age films that involve bullying, I think Monster would be perfect for you. Plus, it's from the director of Nobody Knows. I was surprised you didn't have Dead Poets Society marked as watch, because I feel like this one has your name written all over it. It's another coming-of-age film that tackles a lot of the same themes as your favorites, and like Good Will Hunting, stars Robin Williams in a teaching role. Short Term 12 is one of the first films I thought of when I looked at your favorites, because it shares a lot of common themes. Paris, Texas, Like a Silent Voice depicts a person trying to atone for their past mistakes. And like Incendies, it depicts a relationship between a mother and son who have been separated in some way. Speaking of mother-son relationships, a couple other movies that deal with that and share some similar themes to your favorites are Ordinary People. We need to talk about Kevin, A Monster Calls, Mother, and Mommy. Petite Maman is about a mother-daughter relationship instead of a mother-son relationship, but I think you'd enjoy this one. Monsieur Lazare also deals with some of the themes in your favorites, and the protagonist is an educator like Robin Williams' character in Good Will Hunting. Speaking of Good Will Hunting, another coming-of-age film directed by Gus Van Sant with multiple Elliott Smith needle drops is Paranoid Park. And like A Silent Voice, it depicts someone struggling with feelings of guilt. I wanted to recommend at least one animated film since you have A Silent Voice in your favorites, but you saw pretty much every animated film that came to mind. The only ones I wrote down that you didn't have marked as watch were 5 centimeters per second and Mary and Max. Since math plays an important role in Good Will Hunting and Incendies, two other films that came to mind were A Beautiful Mind and Pi. Since all of the movies in your favorites can be considered tearjerkers or emotional, I was thinking of movies that tend to make people cry, and since Incendies has a moment that can be considered a pretty shocking twist, combining those two ideas into one, I think you should check out Dear Zachary. I don't know if it can be considered a plot twist if it's a documentary, but this movie destroys people emotionally and goes in some shocking directions. On the Edge came to mind when I looked at your favorites because it's about depression and therapy, and it even has a direct reference to Good Will Hunting in it. Speaking of therapy, there were two brilliant films that came out this year that depicted the way art can be a therapeutic healing process, so I think you should check out Ghostlight and Sing Sing. Since Nobody Knows involves child neglect, I think you might want to check out Capernaum or Capernaum. I looked up how to pronounce this but got conflicting information. I think Nobody Knows is one of the best films when it comes to capturing children's perspectives, and another movie that excels at that is Where is the Friend's House? I wrote down a lot of coming-of-age films that you didn't have marked as watch, but I don't want to just list a ton of coming-of-age films, so to better align with your four favorites, I decided to just focus on the ones that tend to make people cry. So I'm also going to recommend Aftersun, Bridge to Terabithia, and Mysterious Skin. I said I wasn't going to just list a bunch of coming-of-age films, but there are three more that it feels wrong to not include, because I just get the feeling you would like Let the Right One In, La En, and City of God.